Hours before the president comes face to face with Kim Jong-un, we now know from the White House that the conversation will not include North Korea's brutal practices and glaring human rights violations. Worth noting, the Trump administration's own State Department says human rights abuses by DPRK regime remain among the worst in the world, including extrajudicial killings, forced labor, torture, prolonged arbitrary detention, rape, forced abortions, sexual violence. NBC's Ken Dilanian has been writing about all this and joins me now with more. So, Ken, let's start with the obvious question. Why would the administration decide to keep this out of the conversation?
Well, Chris, I should say first that there's nothing that would prevent Donald Trump from freelancing and bringing this up in his one-on-one meeting with Kim. We're not ruling that out. But the bottom line is that the administration is not making human rights concessions a part of these negotiations. And in fairness, that's in keeping with decades of U.S. practices and policies where the nuclear threat from North Korea to the United States is prioritized over its awful human rights. And that has only gotten more acute with the notion that North Korea is perfecting an ICBM that could potentially deliver a nuclear weapon to the United States. So it's only natural that the United States would value its own security first and foremost, but we shouldn't lose sight of the fact that that this regime is more brutal than any other in the world, according to the United Nations. It's of orders of magnitude different from, say, Iran or China or Burma or other repressive countries, Chris.
Earlier this week, there were more than 300 groups. They come from all around the world. They sent a letter to Kim Jong-un demanding that his regime, they had a laundry list of things, act on UN human rights recommendations, increase engagement with the international human rights system, everything up to and including ending abuses and detention in prison. And in fact, the president did talk about North Korea's brutal record in a speech to South Korea's National Assembly last November. Take a listen. Do we have that?
An estimated 100,000 North Koreans suffer in gulags, toiling in forced labor, and enduring torture, starvation, rape, and murder on a constant basis.
And that address is still posted. If you go to whitehouse.gov, it's there as part of the America First agenda. Could Trump, for example, seek some human rights concessions after some sort of deal is consummated, if indeed they do come to some sort of deal?
Well, that is certainly the hope, Chris. And in fact, a few months after that speech, Donald Trump hosted some North Korean defectors in the Oval Office who said that they were overjoyed when they heard him say those words to the North Korean parliament. But activists are very concerned by Trump's rhetoric in recent weeks about Kim, essentially suggesting that all he has to do is give up his nuclear weapons to preserve the security of his regime and to get sanctions lifted. And they are worried that these strong words on human rights by Donald Trump was just a tactic to get Kim to the table. It remains to be seen what Trump does going forward on this issue, Chris.
Ken Dilanian, great seeing you. Thank you for that.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.